Happy GA Flashback Friday, TGIF. I am so glad that this week is over. As you guys learned yesterday, I had like the week from hell. And I am just ready for a non-crazy, uneventful, relaxing weekend. It probably won't happen, but one girl can hope, right? Anyway, we're not going to get into all of that because we have a lot to cover because it is GA Flashback Friday, and today we went back to the Magnolia Plantation in Louisiana, and I love this episode. This is one of those that's like cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs crazy in certain parts, and it just draws me in. And so I love it for so many reasons, and we're going to get into all of those in this video. But first, as always, I like to give you a little tiny bit of history about the area. And this was a plantation built in the 1830s solely for the use of slaves and to produce cotton. Over 2,000 acres was cleared out for the production of cotton, and thousands of slaves worked at the fields and lived on the plantation. And with all of that, of course, comes massive amounts of death with the slaves due to sickness and the slave owners, you know, killing them. And it was just such a ridiculous time. And there were so many buildings on this property. Like, it was just crazy. You had a slave hospital and slave houses, and the main plantation house where the overseer of the home at the time, Mr. Miller, was killed in 1864 by the soldiers. When they came to the house, they tried to burn it down, and they ended up shooting him on like the front porch of the house. So there are some pretty significant deaths here, and the main thing that was done here was voodoo. Like, this was so dark and so creepy for that reason, because voodoo was very well known in the area and very well practiced at the time, and is still kind of probably like practiced underground even now. But let me tell you, it was crazy to hear these stories about voodoo being practiced. And while they were walking through, they had like these big black X's all over the property. And the tour guide that was talking about it was like, it's just historical graffiti. Please. I believe that about as far as I can freaking throw you. You are outside your mind if that's historical graffiti. No. So Zach looks it up on the computer, and it turns out that it is actually used in voodoo. So now they know why people don't want to talk about it, because it's like voodoo's like that kid, in like the weird kid in your family that nobody talks about. That's what this was for this plantation. It's like, we're not going to talk about that. So they do their walkthrough, and they mark all their X's, and their main focuses are the main house and the slave cabin, #1, where Aunt Agnes used to live, and she was a healer who apparently lived to 120 years of age. Ain't nobody got time for that. Who wants to live 120 years? I mean, I want to live a long time, don't get me wrong. You'd think at 120 years old, life would just get boring. I mean, I'd be tired. I'd want to sleep. Maybe you could just live forever and sleep all the time. Like, I'd be down for that. I'm all about that. But I'm thinking 120 years, good Lord. But she was like a healer that lived there, and apparently in her cabin, a lot of things happened. Things would be moved, and things would be moved from one end to the other, and they would just hear noises. So they focused on that area. They focused on the main cabin because Mr. Miller, the overseer, died there. And they believe that maybe Mr. LeCount, the original builder of the home, possibly haunted there. And then they also focused in on the slave hospital for the obvious reason that it's a hospital. So that was their 3 main areas that they were going to focus in on lockdown. Now, prior to lockdown, they went into town to like talk to the local people about it and try crawfish. That was hysterical to me because I personally love crawfish. I think they are hysterical. Like, they're so much fun to eat, and they're yummy, and they taste really good, and I love it, and now I want crawfish. Anyway, ADD. But they went in to talk to the people at this crawfish restaurant about the plantation. And one of the guys that actually like boils all the crawfish, his aunt was into voodoo big time. And so Zach was like, so it's probably not a good idea if we do a voodoo ritual. And they're like, yeah, no. And Zach's like, yeah, in my world that means yes. So you can only imagine what happens next. Put on your big surprise faces. Yes. The night before lockdown, Zach and the guys do a voodoo ritual with Bloody Mary, who we've seen in a couple of episodes of Ghost Adventures. But this was the first time we seen her. And she did a voodoo ritual on them the night before lockdown to, like, open the doorway to all the spirits. It worked. Because they actually captured their first piece of evidence the night before lockdown when someone took a picture and there was, like, a face in the smoke of this candle that they had lit. And I was like, oh, Lord. I knew the first time I watched this episode that from that moment on, it was just going to be all hell was going to break loose on this episode. And boy, was I right. So now we're at lockdown. And I did this with last week's flashback where I kind of just broke down the location that they were at and the evidence collected there instead of just doing, like, all this big thing. And I'm going to do that again here because there was just so much that happened in lockdown. So they begin their lockdown at the main plantation house. And they get locked in and they're in there 5 minutes. They go over their X's. They go over where they're going to go on the property. And they immediately start hearing this knocking on the front door, like someone's trying to get in the door. And it was not like a demonic knock, like tap, tap, tap. It was like someone knocking on the door, like, hey, let me in. And it was very clear. You could hear it without, any type of enhanced audio if you were paying attention. It was very, very clear. Then they immediately get an EVP that says, go back, which they thought that was possibly Mr. Miller telling the soldiers to, like, get back and get out of the house. Then Nick starts feeling, like, this cold blast of air, and he's like, I'm freezing right now. So Zach gets out his EMF detector, and when he turns it on, it's immediately spiked at 4, which we've seen it go from 0 to 4, but not be at a 4, and then it instantly goes to 0. So he's thinking that maybe he caught the spirit, like, immediately, and then it just, as it went away, it went down to 0, because it went down to 0 and didn't go back up. Then they hear this huge knock, and followed by a female voice saying hello, and it was creepy, like someone, not like demonic creepy, but like creepy in the sense of like, hello, just weird, had a weird tone to it, and they thought maybe it was Mr. LeCount's wife, saying, hey, what's up, why are you in the house, yo? Then they went upstairs and to investigate, and they walk into a bedroom, like the current owner's bedroom, who's lived there all her life, into her bedroom, which I believe was also Mr. LeCount's bedroom originally, and they open this closet door that leads, like, to this attic, and what I don't know what they were, like, I've seen them, they look like gourds to me, like you see at Thanksgiving and crap, but they were hanging in this attic, and I'm sure it's, like, a southern thing, I don't know, like, I'm sure, people who live on plantations and farms hang weird stuff in weird places, I don't know, my grandparents did it, like, I'd walk in, there'd be, like, sweet potatoes hanging from the closet, it was just weird, I don't understand. But anyway, Zach was freaking out because he had no idea, the city boy had no idea what this stuff was hanging all up in this closet. And he's like, oh my God, they're like alien pods. And he's like afraid to touch them. It was hysterical. Like, I was like, Zach, dude, like they're drying something out. Just calm down. It's just relax. It really looked like gourds, to be honest. Or sweet potatoes, possibly. Like, I don't know what they were, but they were weird. And anyway, he was like poking them, and he was like, this looks like an alien spaceship. Dude, did we just walk into something we're not supposed to know about? Chances are yes. But while they're in there, they see this little green ball of light, and it was weird because he sees it, and then it, like, as soon as he makes contact with it, it, like, floats away, and it looked like an orb of green light, and they never seen it again. It was just really, really odd. So they get out of their room, and then they go down to the basement, where they had discovered these long things of, like, wood that had, like, holes drilled out of them, and they were shackles that were used by the slaves. They would put the slaves in there, and they would make them sit as punishment, and it would, like, hurt the backs of their legs. And the guys were sitting there, and they get a disembodied voice saying, hey, and it was creepy. Like, it was a weird, creepy hey. And they really didn't get anything else in there, so they decide to leave and go to the second part of their lockdown, but they leave 2 static night vision cameras, one upstairs in the bedroom and one in the main, like, area. And in the main area, they catch, at 46 minutes after they leave, they catch, like, this weird music playing, and it almost sounds like ritual drums, like banging. And then they also capture a man in the house kind of going, hey, like yelling, and they think maybe that was, like, Mr. Miller. And so that is all they had for the plantation house, like the main house. Now, this is where they part ways. Nick goes to the slave hospital by himself for the remainder of lockdown, and Zach and Aaron go to slave cabin number 1, where Aunt Agnes lived for like 100 million years, healing people and such. So they go and lock down Nick in the slave cabin. And we didn't really get any evidence in there. Like, you know, Nick asked all the appropriate questions. He may have gotten some EVPs and stuff that weren't, like, put on the show, but there was no, like, big moments. So that we're not really going to talk about that because nothing really happened, which is fine because I don't like talking about Nick anyway. Bye, Felicia. And now we focus on Zach and Aaron, and this was creepy. This was a creepy, awesome part of lockdown because they're walking to the slave cabin, and there's slave cabin number 1, and they show them where they're at. And when they get there, they see this light in this other slave cabin, like, go on. And it turns on. Aaron's like, dude, did you see that? And Zach's like, yeah. So they run over there, and by the time they get there, the light goes off. And then it goes on again. And then Zach's like, hey, if you're in there, can you turn the light off? And the light goes off. And it goes on, and it goes off, and it keeps flickering on and off. So they ask Dusty, the park ranger, if that light is known to do that, like if it's broken or, you know, known to flicker, and he's like, no. Like, that's never happened before. And Zach's like, well, there you go. There you have it. So they decide to leave a static night vision camera on the front porch to capture the porch of the house that they're in, but they also happen to be able to capture the cabin that the light is flickering on and off. So they get locked down in there, and they have a voodoo doll with them, because that's smart, from Bloody Mary. And, of course, Zach is like, I'm going to sit right here. And Aaron, dude, you're going to go into room 2 and take that voodoo doll with you. And Aaron, of course, is like, dude. Because, of course, we're season 2 in. Aaron's so scared of everything, especially anything that has, like, you know, curses attached to it. Which, I'll give Aaron this one. I don't think I could do that either. Like, I mean, I have a line. And that probably would have tiptoed over it. But he did it anyway. You know, he bucked up, took one for the team, did it anyway. They are in there like 2 seconds. And Zach feels like the vibration of his chair being tapped. And he freaks out. He's like, what was that? At the same time, Aaron hears the tapping. So they all start freaking out. They start getting these cold blasts of air. And the light outside is wigging out. It's just going on and off. On and off. On and off. And this is all being captured on their static night vision camera. At this point, I'm like, because that is freaky. And it's just creepy. So then they kind of switch rooms to see if Aaron can feel the same energy Zach is feeling. And then while they switch rooms, Zach starts hearing like this loud chanting and like yelling in the room. And they capture it on their digital recorder. And it was almost like they were doing a voodoo ritual in there while Aaron and Zach were in there, like the spirits were. And the final thing that they get is this creepy voice saying, Aaron. And it's creepy. Meanwhile, the light outside is still wigging out. And I think that's why I love this episode, because the setting is perfect. They're in the South. They're on a plantation. It's dark. It's raining. There's thunder. There's lightning. These lights are freaking out. They're getting all these disembodied voices. They're not getting, like, things, you know, like random bumps and things falling. They're getting voices. They're getting on-command lights going on and off. They're getting faces in smoke and tree. This is, like, what I live for as a Ghost Adventures fan. I absolutely love, love, love this episode from start to finish. It just makes me creeped out and scared, and it's probably in my top 10 for sure, just because of the evidence that they capture. And so I was so excited that I got to do this episode this week for Flashback Friday, because, like I said, it's one of my favorites. But that is all I have for GA Flashback Friday. I will see you guys more than likely on Tuesday, because I don't believe that there is any new episode of Ghost Adventures or Aftershocks on Monday this week either. They need to get it together, and August needs to get here, because that is when season 11 of Ghost Adventures premieres on the Travel Channel, and I'm so excited. I cannot wait. So I will see you guys on Tuesday for GAQA Tuesday. Until then, stay happy, stay healthy, have a wonderful, fantastic weekend. To all of you moms out there, have a wonderful, fantastic, beautiful Mother's Day. I know I'm just going to spend it with my girls and cuddling up, and we'll watch some movies, and it's just going to be a mommy and girl day, and I'm really excited to do that. It's one of my favorite things to do with them anyway, and I don't need flowers, I don't need candy, I don't need any recognition. I have all of the reason in the world for Mother's Day, which is my 2 beautiful daughters, and I cannot think of a better way than to spend it with them. So that is what I'm going to do. You guys have a fantastic weekend. I will see you guys on Tuesday.